Good evening, everybody. I'd like to welcome you to the August 23rd Cranston City Council meeting. Clerk, will you please take the roll?
Councilwoman Marino,
Present.
Councilman Ferry,
Present.
Councilwoman Mazzulli,
Present.
Councilwoman Vargas, Councilwoman Jermaine,
Present.
Councilman Donegan,
Present.
Councilman Riley,
Present.
Council Vice President Brady,
Present.
Council President Paplaskas.
Present. If you'd like to join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you, everyone. I will entertain a motion to dispense with the reading of the minutes of the last meeting.
So moved. Second.
Any discussion? There being none, clerk, please take the roll.
Councilwoman Marino,
Yes.
Councilman Ferry,
Yes.
Councilwoman Mazzulli,
Yes.
Councilwoman Jermaine,
Yes.
Councilman Donegan, Councilman Riley,
Yes.
Council Vice President Brady,
Yes.
Council President Paplaskas.
Yes. Okay, moving on to public acknowledgements and accommodations. We have none on the docket this evening. Moving on to public hearings and public comment, I will open up the first portion of public hearings for matters that are docketed items. So if you are in chambers and are a member of the public and would like to speak on a docketed matter, now is the time to come up. So if you are in chambers and would like to speak, now's the time. Good evening. Name and address for the record, please. Mr. Jordan, is the microphone on?
There we go. Green light. Probably
Thank you.
on. Is it all set now? Okay. Arthur Jordan, 35 Lincoln Park Avenue. I'm the business manager for Local 1322 that represents the employees in City of Cranston in Public Works and Recreation. I stand before you asking for you to pass the contract that is being put forth to you tonight. I think it's a contract that is very fair to the taxpayer, which I am, and I've been for 65 years. Well, maybe I didn't pay taxes all them years. My family did, though. They've been here for 4 generations. And I think it's fair to the employees, gives them a modest raise and lets them know that the hard work they do is appreciated. So I ask you to support this contract and pass it unanimously.
Thank you, Mr. Jordan. Anybody else here in the gallery for public comment? There being none, we will check on Zoom.
There is one person with their hand raised.
Okay. Please bring them into the gallery. Mr. Lima, do we have a name?
Yes, Mr. Bombardier.
Hi, Mr. Bombardier, name and address for the record, please, and the floor is yours.
Jay Bombardier, 41 Oak Street. I'm just talking to you guys today about the resolution that Councilman Riley is putting up for Recovery Month of September. Several years ago, I was involved with an organization that's called Salvation Army Drug and Alcohol Rehabilitation Center. I was a warehouse manager with them. Seeing a lot of people come and go with drug and alcohol addictions. Knowing that and seeing the issues that people deal with drug and alcohol, a lot of help is needed. A lot of people need the help. I've seen people go a year being, sober to a week later, going right back to drinking alcohol again. I've seen people 5, and I know people that have been sober for the last 33 years. alcohol addiction and drug addiction is a major issue that we are having, especially during the pandemic. Most of you know that I recently lost my wife to addiction. Tried numerous times to get her the help that she needed. The addiction gets so built up into somebody's head where they don't even think they have the addiction. I've watched my wife come off of alcohol just for one night without anything. And she was having delusions and she had to be medicated and forced into a coma because she was just going through such a horrible time. It is definitely a mental issue that needs to be addressed. And I think having Cranston recognize September as a recovery month recognizes everybody that's struggling through recovery, no matter if it's drugs, alcohol, whatever the addiction may be. So I just urge the council to pass that resolution. And I thank everybody for listening to me. Also, I just want to thank everybody on the council as well as everybody in the city for being well prepared during this storm. Thank you all very much.
Thank you, Mr. Bombardier, and our hearts still go out with you and your family through this difficult time. Any other members of the public for public comment on the internet, Mr. Lima?
There's no public comment.
Last call for anybody in the gallery. There being none, I will close this portion of public hearings. Moving on to resolutions. We have a resolution recognizing the month of September as Recovery Month in the city of Cranston, sponsored by Councilman Riley. Councilmember Riley, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Council President. It's an honor to bring this resolution forth. Historically, for decades now, nationally, we have recognized the month of September as Recovery Month to educate people that substance use treatment and mental health services are available, but more so to take away the stigma of if an addict can come out of recovery, because a lot of them think that no matter what, even if they get clean, their life isn't going to be worth anything anyway. And that stigma needs to be addressed, and the veil needs to continue to be lifted. So that's why I brought this forward. It's something that's close to my heart, and I think it's important. Along with this, I'm also organizing a celebration for recovery on September 14th at 5:30 here at City Hall. We'll have Anchor Recovery here with some people, 2 speakers from there, as well as a couple of other speakers to share their strength and experience with us. And to, again, lift that stigma and let people know that people can live full lives after they've recovered. So with that, do I need to read the entirety into the record?
If you'd like to read it.
I think the resolution stands for itself, and I would just ask that the council support this. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Questions or comments from the council? Council Vice President Brady?
Do I motion to approve first?
Sure, we'll entertain a motion.
Motion to approve. Second.
Okay, under discussion, Council Vice President Brady.
I just want to commend Matt for bringing this to the council tonight as a resolution. Recovery addiction runs pretty heavily in my family, and I've been through it, and it truly is a day at a time. And you know, unless you've been through it, it's very difficult to understand. But I think probably in some way or another, we've all been through it. And to hear Mr. Bombardier come on tonight and talk about the passing of his wife, and we've all been affected through addiction throughout our life. I think it's important to make sure that we continue to be there for those that are in need, especially right now. I mean, these are still some of the most troublesome times in our American history, and we're not through this pandemic. So make sure you reach out to your friends. But if it pleases the sponsor, I'd love to be added as a co-sponsor.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Council Vice President Brady. Any other comments from the council? Councilmember Jermaine.
I push it and
Just need to hold it down. As long as the light's on, the microphone is on.
okay. Okay, I'm not going to be long. I want to just say thank you for bringing this because as you mentioned, so many of us consider addiction as a taboo. We don't talk about it too often and we should. So a lot of us have been affected, our families, but as we take this step to talk about it, to educate people, and we will save more lives. So thank you for bringing this.
Thank you, Councilmember. Any other questions or comments? Councilmember Vargas.
Thank you, Councilman Riley. Thank you for introducing this. To be honest with you, I just read this late, last night, and in reading it again, a little while ago, I actually, when I worked for the city of Pawtucket, we did a lot of work in collaboration with the Inca Recovery, and when they were in the city of Pawtucket, I believe now they are in Providence. And at the time, Jim Gillen, who passed in 2015, was a huge advocate of Inca Recovery because of his story. As a matter of fact, if my memory is not failing me, I believe Inca Recovery actually did several events in Providence, right around one of the state parks right near the State House outside. And I attended many of those, not only because of, obviously my job, but I got to meet Jim personally, working with him on various collaborations that he would ask of the city. So that being said, I'd like to be added as a co-sponsor, and thank you for putting this forward.
Thank you, Councilmember. Any other questions or comments?
And for the record, if you can, the clerk can please take notes that I'm here, obviously. Thank you.
Yes, please note for the record, Councilmember Vargas is here and will certainly blame the Park Avenue Bridge. For sure. Any other questions or comments? There being none, I'll just finish up by thanking Councilmember Riley for bringing this forward. Certainly substance abuse and addiction has probably touched all of us at some point in our lives. And I would like to be added as a co-sponsor as well, if the sponsor would allow. And that being said, Madam Clerk, can you please take the roll?
Councilwoman Marino,
Yes.
Councilman Ferry,
Yes.
Councilwoman Mazzulli,
Yes.
Councilwoman Vargas.
Yes.
Councilwoman Jermaine,
Yes.
Councilman Donegan, Councilman Riley,
Yes.
Council Vice President Brady,
Yes.
Council President Paplaskas.
Yes. Thank you. Moving on to report of committees. We have one agenda item up for the Safety Services and Licensing Committee. Chairwoman Renzulli, the floor is yours.
Thank you. So all we have tonight is a transfer of an alcoholic beverage license. It is a transfer from a limited license to a full license. It is over the cap and it passed in committee. I urge passage here. It's for Gio's Restaurant, Breakfast and Lunch, Inc.
Thank you, Chair. This did pass unanimously in committee and I will entertain a motion.
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? There being none, clerk, please take the roll.
Councilwoman Marino,
Yes.
Councilman Ferry,
Yes.
Councilwoman Mazzulli,
Yes.
Councilwoman Vargas.
Yes.
Councilwoman Jermaine,
Yes.
Councilman Donegan, Councilman Riley,
Yes.
Council Vice President Brady,
Yes.
Council President Paplaskas.
Yes. Thank you very much. That concludes the business of the Safety Services and Licensing Committee. Moving on to the Finance Committee, Council Vice President Brady, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Council President. 721-01, ordinance transferring appropriations and supplemental appropriations, amending the budget for fiscal year commencing July 1st, 2020 and ending June 30th, 2021, fourth quarter transfers, sponsored by Mayor Hopkins. This passed unanimously in committee and I urge passage here tonight.
Thank you, Council Vice President. I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? There being none, clerk, please take the roll.
Councilwoman Marino, Yes. Councilman Ferry,
Yes.
Councilwoman Mazzulli,
Yes.
Councilwoman Vargas,
Yes.
Councilwoman Jermaine,
Yes.
Councilman Donegan, Councilman Riley,
Yes.
Council Vice President Brady,
Yes.
Council President Paplaskas.
Yes.
72102, ordinance transferring appropriations and amending the budget for fiscal year commencing July 1st, 2021 and ending June 30th, 2022. City Council to Executive Transfers General Fund, sponsored by Councilwoman Renzulli, Council President Paplaskas, Council Vice President Brady, and Councilman Riley. This passed unanimously in committee, and I urge passage here tonight.
Thank you. I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to approve?
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? There being none, clerk, please take the roll.
Councilwoman Marino,
Yes.
Councilman Ferry,
Yes.
Councilwoman Mazzulli,
Yes.
Councilwoman Vargas, Councilwoman Jermaine,
Yes.
Councilman Donegan, Councilman Riley,
Yes.
Council Vice President Brady,
Yes.
Council President Paplaskas.
Yes.
721-03, ordinance ratifying the Liuna Laborers International Union of North America contract, local union 1322, fiscal year July 1st, 2021 to June 30th, 2024, sponsored by Mayor Hopkins. This passed unanimously in committee, and I urge passage here tonight.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? There being none, clerk, please take the roll.
Councilwoman Marino,
Yes.
Councilman Ferry,
Yes.
Councilwoman Mazzulli,
Yes.
Councilwoman Vargas.
Yes.
Councilwoman Jermaine,
Yes.
Councilman Donegan, Councilman Riley,
Yes.
Council Vice President Brady,
Yes.
Council President Paplaskas.
Yes.
721-04, ordinance ratifying school committee's collective bargaining agreement with Rhode Island Laborers District Council 1322, tradespeople unit, introduced pursuant to Charter Section 11-02-1. This passed unanimously in committee, and I urge passage here tonight.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? There being none, clerk, please take the roll.
Councilwoman Marino,
Yes.
Councilman Ferry,
Yes.
Councilwoman Mazzulli,
Yes.
Councilwoman Vargas,
Yes.
Councilwoman Jermaine,
Yes.
Councilman Donegan, Councilman Riley,
Yes.
Council Vice President Brady,
Yes.
Council President Paplaskas.
Yes.
721-05, ordinance ratifying school committee's collective bargaining agreement with National Association of Government Employees, Local Rhode Island 153, custodian unit, introduced pursuant to Charter Section 11-02-1. This passed unanimously in committee, and I urge passage here tonight.
Motion to approve.
We have a motion and a second under discussion. 721-05, just for clarification, who is this ordinance sponsored by? That's before us. Were they all sponsored? Oh, never mind. It's pursuant to the charter. All right, any discussion? There being none, clerk, please take the roll.
Councilwoman Marino,
Yes.
Councilman Ferry,
Yes.
Councilwoman Mazzulli,
Yes.
Councilwoman Vargas, Councilwoman Jermaine,
Yes.
Councilman Donegan, Councilman Riley,
Yes.
Council Vice President Brady, Council President Paplaskas.
Yes.
Who seconded this?
We had Councilmember Donegan. Did you second it?
Thank you.
Thank you.
721-06, ordinance ratifying school committee's collective bargaining agreement with Rhode Island Laborers District Council 1322, bus drivers unit, introduced pursuant to Charter Section 11-02-1. It's passed unanimously in committee, and I urge passage here tonight.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? There being none, clerk, please take the roll.
Councilwoman Marino,
Yes.
Councilman Ferry,
Yes.
Councilwoman Mazzulli,
Yes.
Councilwoman Vargas, Councilwoman Jermaine,
Yes.
Councilman Donegan, Councilman Riley,
Yes.
Council Vice President Brady,
Yes.
Council President Paplaskas.
Yes.
721-07, ordinance ratifying school committee's collective bargaining agreement with Rhode Island Council 94 AFSCME, AFL-CIO, Cranston Public School Employees, Local 2044, introduced pursuant to Charter Section 1102-1. This passed unanimously in committee, and I urge passage here tonight.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? There being none, clerk, please take the roll.
Councilwoman Marino,
Yes.
Councilman Ferry,
Yes.
Councilwoman Renzulli. Yes. Councilwoman Vargas,
Yes.
Councilwoman Jermaine,
Yes.
Councilman Donegan, Councilman Riley, Council Vice President Brady,
Yes.
Council President Paplaskas.
Yes.
Resolution authorizing real estate tax abatements. This passed unanimously in committee, and I urge passage here tonight.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? There being none, clerk, please take the roll.
Councilwoman Marino,
Yes.
Councilman Ferry.
Yes.
Councilwoman Renzulli.
Yes.
Councilwoman Vargas,
Yes.
Councilwoman Jermaine, Councilman Donegan, Councilman Riley,
Yes.
Council Vice President Brady,
Yes.
Council President Paplaskas.
Yes.
Resolution authorizing motor vehicle tax base abatements. This passed unanimously in committee, and I urge passage here tonight.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? There being none, clerk, please take the roll.
Councilwoman Marino,
Yes.
Councilman Ferry,
Yes.
Councilwoman Renzulli,
Yes.
Councilwoman Vargas, Councilwoman Jermaine,
Yes.
Councilman Donegan, Councilman Riley,
Yes.
Council Vice President Brady,
Yes.
Council President Paplaskas.
Yes.
Resolution authorizing tangible tax abatements. This passed unanimously in committee, and I urge passage here tonight.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? There being none, clerk, please take the roll.
Councilwoman Marino,
Yes.
Councilman Ferry,
Yes.
Councilwoman Renzulli,
Yes.
Councilwoman Vargas, Councilwoman Jermaine,
Yes.
Councilman Donegan, Councilman Riley,
Yes.
Council Vice President Brady,
Yes.
Council President Paplaskas.
Yes.
Tax interest waiver approvals. This passed unanimously in committee, and I urge passage here tonight.
Motion to approve?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? There being none, clerk, take the roll.
Councilwoman Marino,
Yes.
Councilman Ferry.
Yes.
Councilwoman Renzulli,
Yes.
Councilwoman Vargas.
Yes.
Councilwoman Jermaine,
Yes.
Councilman Donegan, Councilman Riley,
Yes.
Council Vice President Brady,
Yes.
Council President Paplaskas.
Yes.
Tax interest waiver denials. This passed unanimously in committee, and I urge passage here tonight.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to approve.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? There being none, clerk, can you please take the roll?
Councilwoman Marino,
Yes.
Councilman Ferry,
Yes.
Councilwoman Renzulli,
Yes.
Councilwoman Vargas.
Yes.
Councilwoman Jermaine,
Yes.
Councilman Donegan, Councilman Riley,
Yes.
Council Vice President Brady,
Yes.
Council President Paplaskas.
Yes. Thank you very much, Council Vice President. Moving on to the Claims Committee, Council Minority Leader Donegan.
Thank you, Council President. These are on here for informational purposes only. A Yuroshenko property damage claim of $369 and Progressive Insurance claim for $6,000.
Thank you very much. That concludes the business of committees. Moving on to public comment for undocketed items. Is there anybody here from the public that would like to speak on an undocketed item? Come on up to the podium. Good evening, sir. Name and address for the record, please. And just make sure the microphone is on, the green light is on.
My name is David Baldwin. I live at 67 Fordson Avenue. And I'm here to comment on the vehicle surveillance system that was described in Thursday's Cranston Herald. I'm not particularly opposed to the deployment of such a system that aids the police in doing their job. However, I think before any such system is deployed, that the city council should attempt to intervene in some very specific ways in the interest of protecting the privacy of the residents of Cranston. First of all, I think before any such system is deployed, there should be some attempt to make some comprehensive survey of the residents of Cranston to determine their desire or not to have their vehicle movements surveilled in this way. Secondly, the company that makes the system provides an opt-out option for individual residents. They can enter their license and be opted out of the system. I think that should be the default, that before the system is deployed, every citizen, every resident of Cranston should have their vehicles opted out of the system, because there should be no presumption that there is any need to surveil the movements of their vehicles. There should be, before a system is deployed, a framework of metrics and evaluation to determine, so that there is some objective way of determining if the system is actually doing what it claims to do. And there should be some provision that if it does not, or if it can't be demonstrated that it is doing that, that it can be decommissioned. There should be provision made for verifying and recording any and all access to information in the system. And there should be significant penalties for unauthorized use of the information or unauthorized access to the system. That's it. I think these are a minimal set of measures that this city council should take before they allow a mass surveillance system like this to be deployed.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, sir. Anybody else in the gallery from the public like to speak on any undocketed items? There being none, do we have anybody on Zoom?
Yes, there is. Mr. John R. Grasso, Esquire.
If you can bring them in. Hi, Mr. Grasso, name and address for the record, and the floor is yours.
How are you, sir? Can you hear me?
We can hear you loud and clear.
Oh, beautiful. John Grasso. I live on Mechanicat Valley Parkway. The gentleman that just spoke before me hit a lot of nails on the head. He did a great job. Yeah, I thank him for that. The only thing that I would like to add, two things. One, I guess it's a question, I don't need an answer to it, but how did this decision get made without involving any of our representative government? It's not a small thing to begin to accumulate recordings of the whereabouts of the citizens and the members of our community. Now, I'm certainly a law enforcement advocate. The police do a fantastic job in the city of Cranston. We don't have to look too far to our neighbors to see what happens when the police aren't allowed to do their job, and I commend them every day for doing that. I feel safe in Cranston. However, this decision is not a small one, and it certainly infringes on our right to certain levels of privacy. Now, I understand that some may say, well, what privacy interests do you have in your license plate? And on the surface, my answer would be none. It's out in the open, and it would be unreasonable for me or anybody to expect that government wouldn't be able to look at it. However, the point that I think it becomes very important is that when we start to recruit technology, very sophisticated technology, that is recording what might otherwise be out in the open and not public, and you're doing it on a grand scale, then the picture, the automated picture of where you are becomes much more comprehensive. And then I think we have a certain right to deny the government the ability to know our whereabouts on such a grand scale. I'm pretty sure that those toll gantries that have gone up on every single highway in the state probably have license plate readers on them. And if we're going to saturate the city of Cranston with it, then if you think about, on average, let's say 1 week recording of where you're driving around the state, and if the majority of your driving is in Cranston and there's 30 of these devices in the city, I would imagine someone could put in your plate and get a pretty good idea of the places that you visit, where you buy your coffee in the morning, maybe what doctor you go to, what church you visit. And so these are questions that I think, these are discussions that I think need to be had. And it seems bold that the city has chosen to implement this sort of recording of our whereabouts without any of this discussion, that the decision may have been made unilaterally, or at the least, it doesn't seem to have been made with any of our representative government. I mean, we just went through almost 2 years of executive orders that told us when we could go to church, when we couldn't go to church, when we can go to the dentist to get a cavity filled. I don't need to repeat all of that. It was very uncomfortable to be subject to that sort of executive authority. And absent a compelling reason to do it again, I would hope that we would slow this process down so that the members of our community, at least, might be able to learn a little bit more about what they are going to give up if this is permissible. That's really all I have to say. Thank you for listening to me.
Thank you, Mr. Grasso. Do we have anybody else on Zoom?
No public comment.
Okay, well, last call. Anybody else for undocketed items? I don't think you can as a member of the police department. Yeah, I think we can lightly touch on this during executive communications. Not sure how far we can go this evening because it's not on the docket, but we can certainly get it on a future docket. There being nobody else for undocketed items, I will close this portion of the meeting. Thank you all who testified. Moving on to the election and or appointment of city officials. Diversity Commission, we have the appointment of Donald Roach Jr. for term ending of January 2nd, 2023. This is a council president appointment. No vote will be taken. This is strictly informational. Moving on to report of city officers. We have none. Moving on to executive communications. We have the legal expense analysis for 7/1 to 8/23. Any questions on that for the administration? There being none, we'll move on.
Actually, Chris, if I could, I'm sorry.
Sure.
I just had a question through council president, might be better directed towards the solicitor, Mr. Malay. I had a question with respect to the billing of Attorney Catalano for over $7,000 just for the month of July. And I just was looking for a little more insight as to why that's so extensive. Given the hourly rate, that seems like a lot of hours. So just like some insight. Thanks.
Certainly. Good evening, Councilwoman. Councilwoman, Mr. Catalano has been handling the prosecutions, which has begun 2 days a week in Kent County, 3rd Division District Court. During the month of July, there were actually 2 different trials, which were lengthy in nature. One involved a lawyer who was charged with assaulting a member of the Cranston Police Department. That has been discussed and prepared at length for over the last many months. It goes back to the protests from last June. And there were many police officers that were prepared for trial, and there was many documents. It was also the subject of something that went all the way up to the Supreme Court on a writ. And Mr. Catalano has been handling that matter and did handle that matter from beginning to end. There were also numerous cases which were somewhat combined involving the ATVs and the police department in the last month. So there were many of those 2 cases, in addition to the 8 or 9 calendar events which occurred in the month of July. There were also those two matters, to group them in just into two matters, that took up a serious amount of time in the solicitor's office and in Mr. Catalano's responsibility. I hope that answers your question.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Councilmember and Solicitor Malay. Before we go on to the service pension disability and executive communications, are there any other executive communications? Director Moretti? The floor is yours, sir.
Yes, thank you. Regarding a topic the administration, the mayor would like to communicate, has to do with the use of the cameras that have just begun to be activated, I believe, in the city. Basically, it's our response. We recognize the concerns of some council people. Some people have spoken, I guess, in the social media that questioning any advance notice of this, to say that one council person wrote, "We didn't vote on this the first time hearing of it." This is why I think it's important to communicate this tonight. And that's another person wrote, "First I heard of it. It was in the news like everyone else. We weren't told squat in advance." Another council person wrote, "Was left in the dark on this, par for the course. Council meeting is scheduled for Monday. I plan on asking the administration for an explanation, even though it's not on the docket." And then I didn't know in advance of seeing this in the news either. I think we'll be asking some questions. So I think it's important for the administration to convey what's happening. So with that, about a month and a half ago, 2 months ago, Colonel Winquist came up to the mayor's office and requested a meeting with myself and the mayor to give us a briefing on an initiative that he had, and wanted to get the mayor's opinion and input as to his thoughts. It had to do with the plate reading cameras that eventually have been installed on a trial basis in the city. And the mayor was quite concerned, as expressed by this gentleman here, the gentleman on the Zoom meeting, and I'm sure respectfully of the council people, but the absolute concerns that they have. The mayor at that point expressed to the colonel the concerns for privacy, most important. It was found out too that the plates are not taking picture of individuals, it's pictures of license plates. Very concerned for the application and how these cameras and what the purposes of these cameras would be used for. He was concerned about the destruction or the maintenance or retaining or destruction of the information, of the history of the information on the cameras. Very concerned about cybersecurity concerns, concerns about user access of the information, concerns about the legal use of these cameras. The colonel did some investigation on this, and he came back and met to the mayor's satisfaction. And the mayor assessed this as potentially being, it's a terrific initiative and a potential game changer in the police. This is, not very often an opportunity comes up like this to prevent crime in the city, deter crime in the city. And at the same time, not being abusive of any personal, not compromising anyone's personal information. And he was quite satisfied with it. Last week, as you know, Colonel Winquist sponsored a press conference along with the two police chiefs of Pawtucket and Woonsocket to explain as best he could articulate to the people in those communities about the uses of those plate reading cameras. And as the council presidents know, I gave him a heads up the day before, the morning, I believe, prior to the event, just to give him a heads up that the colonel had scheduled this event. Colonel did it along with the other police chiefs, didn't brief the mayor as to what the content of those meetings would be, because the mayor trusts Colonel Winquist He trusts the command staff of our police department and to execute what they felt is best and legally valid in the city. So with that, the mayor was comfortable in approving and trusting the Colonel Winquist and the police staff. Major Patalana was here. I think it'd be a great opportunity as part of the administration if he could maybe shed more light on some of the issues and concerns that the public might be interested in, the council folks might be interested in. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Moretti. Before we go any further, this isn't on the docket, so I just don't want to get in a jam or a situation where something wasn't advertised. I certainly appreciate the update, but I just want to make sure we're doing things on the up and up. So Solicitor Verdecchio.
Yeah, if I may, Mr. President, I may have noticed I've been discussing with Solicitor Millet. We were discussing this very topic. It's okay to have, the gentleman came up and commented on the undocketed item, but the Attorney General has made it very clear that it's to be confined to commentary, not discussion, and that's it. If there's going to be any type of back and forth, any kind, this would have to be properly advertised at a future meeting. I mean, we've allowed some leeway, but we're really, really about to cross that line if we have any further discussion about this without it being properly advertised.
I agree with you, Attorney Verdecchio and Councilmember Donegan. I see your hands up. I think we might have to set a date for another meeting for this because I know I have questions. I'm sure all of you have questions. And I would certainly like to have the opportunity to ask mine. I'd like to talk to the clerk so we can set a date for a future meeting. I would like to put it on the safety services docket, but if there are a lot of businesses and this is going to take time, we might have to set a special meeting. Councilmember Donegan. What's that?
He touched on exactly what I was going to say, Council President. I agree wholeheartedly.
Okay. Director Moretti.
Thank you, Council President. Respectfully, we're trying to, executive communications, we're trying to send a one-way message out to the council people and very importantly, out to the public. And we're not soliciting questions. And we'd like to take this opportunity, the mayor would like to take this opportunity for me to communicate as best we can at this time. And part of the administration we consider as the top police brass. And we ask Major Patalano if you can give him the opportunity as an extension or part of the administration to send a message recognizing we ask him not to accept any questions. We've communicated things. I've communicated things before that weren't on the docket, but we were not stifled. And we asked the same thing this evening.
Certainly no intention to stifle, but I know this is a hot topic for the public as well. So if legal has no objection, I'll certainly allow Major Patalano to speak as long as there are no questions from council members and we don't go any further. If the attorneys would like to, you're welcome.
Council President,
Yes.
thank you for letting me speak. Weren't we just advised that we shouldn't be doing this?
Councilmember Ferry just said that I was just advised, or we were just advised not to continue this discussion. I certainly heard the attorneys loud and clear, but
And I think we're all in favor of setting a date to have this done the right
I
way.
am too. I just wanted to hear
Agreed.
from the attorneys one more time. Director, I'd rather set a date certain, just so that way we don't get in a jam this evening.
Yep, so we're
going off on a
saying this,
tangent.
so we're saying the same thing. We agree if you like to hold it separate, but probably, I don't know, we'd like to get this message out with all the questioning to vet it sooner than later. So yes, we will support it. We're not going to be having a problem with you deferring it.
To the council members and members of the public, just with the holiday coming up, I want to talk to the city clerk tomorrow and we'll set a date as soon as possible. I don't want to set a date on the fly tonight in case we conflict with another board or committee that already has something scheduled. All right. Director, do you have any other communications? Director Moretti, do you have any other communications? If it's not on the docket, it's got to be like 30 seconds.
15 seconds. The mayor wished to have a fall harvest festival with this, but he's concerned about the potential of COVID as these cases are expand. And so he's going to postpone anything to next, hopefully the spring or something, to have a different event. But would have loved to have the council involved and had a great celebration, but thought it was prudent. Because if we stop planning the event, then you cancel last minute. There's a lot of cost, expense, and effort that goes into it. So just want to pass that along.
Thank you, Director Moretti.
We legal?
Yeah, moving on under executive communications, we have one other item. It's a request to be changed from service pension to from a service pension to a disability pension for Stephen Chambrone. That's going to have to be done in executive session, and that is listed last on the docket. So I want to entertain a motion to take the docket out of order.
Motion to take the docket out of order.
Second.
Any discussion? There being, Councilmember Jermaine.
Thank you, Council President. I would like to have a little clarification about service pension. What the difference between service pension to disability pension? What is the difference? Why we change it?
So we have a motion before us to take the docket out of order. Once we get through that, we'll circle back to this question. Okay?
Thank you.
Right. Any discussion on taking the docket out of order? There being none, clerk, please take the roll.
Councilwoman Marino,
Yes.
Councilman Ferry,
Yes.
Councilwoman Manzulli,
Yes.
Councilwoman Vargas,
Yes.
Councilwoman Jermaine,
Yes.
Councilman Donegan, Councilman Riley,
Yes.
Council Vice President Brady, Council President Paplaskas.
Yes. Okay, so we're going to take out of order. Find it here. We're going to need a motion to go into executive session pursuant to RIGL 42465A1, personnel and health reasons for the request to be changed from service pension to a disability pension for Stephen Chambrone. Motion in a second. Thank you. And then back to Council Member Jermaine's question before we vote to go into executive session. Director Perillo, or to the attorneys, is it permitted to discuss the difference between a service pension and a disability pension before we go in to executive session? Generally? No specifics?
Good evening. Service pension, you qualify for a service pension by years of service. So normally anywhere from 20 years to 35 years of service, you qualify for a service pension based on either the city rules or the state rules, depending which pension you fall under. Disability pension is a pension you receive because you were injured on the job and you can no longer perform that duty, whether you're a policeman or a fireman. Disability pensions can happen if you're a policeman or fireman in 1 year. You could be disabled and never be able to do the job again. You get a lifelong pension. Service pension is just that you have to qualify over a number of years based on the contractual arrangement you have per the CBA.
So to the job?
Correct.
And is it possible you still have the pension you should have, like based on the law? Is that something beside your regular pension?
The city has older police and fire retirees that are in the city system. There's two systems, the city system and the state system. Once you qualify for a disability pension in either one of those systems, you no longer can work for the city in that capacity. And you get a tax-free disability pension based on the salary you were making at the time of your injury. And you cannot come back to the city employed in that capacity.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Before we vote to go into executive session, Madam Clerk, was was Mr. Chambrone notified of his right to have this hearing in open session?
Yes, he was notified by regular mail, certified mail, and I also emailed him the letter since we had his old address when I sent out the first certified mail. So he was notified 3 different ways, and he
Okay.
was aware of the meeting.
Thank you. Mr. Lima, do we have anybody online, or is Mr. Chambrone online on the Zoom?
No one has their hand raised, no public comment.
Thank you. So that being said, I will ask the clerk to take the roll to go into executive session.
Councilwoman Marino,
Yes.
Councilman Ferry,
Yes.
Councilwoman Renzulli,
Yes.
Councilwoman Vargas, Councilwoman Jermaine,
Yes.
Councilman Donegan, Councilman Riley,
Yes.
Council Vice President Brady, Council President Paplaskas.
Yes, we're now in executive session. All right. We are back. So I will entertain a motion to come out of executive session.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? What's that? Okay, we have a motion and a second to come out of. executive
Motion to
session.
come out of executive
Clerk,
session.
Please take the roll.
Councilwoman Marino,
Yes.
Councilman Ferry,
Yes.
Councilwoman Renzulli,
Yes.
Councilwoman Vargas. Yes. Councilwoman Jermaine,
Yes.
Councilman Donegan, Councilman Riley,
Yes.
Council Vice President Brady,
Yes.
Council President Paplaskas.
Yes. Okay, we are out of executive session. I'd like to report the vote in executive session. The vote was unanimous to change the service pension for Stephen Chambrone from a service pension to a disability. The motion was made by Councilmember Donegan and seconded by Councilmember Vargas. That being said, I will entertain a motion to seal the minutes.
So moved. Second.
Okay, any other discussion? There being none, clerk, please take the roll.
Councilwoman Marino,
Yes.
Councilman Ferry.
Yes.
Councilwoman Renzulli, Councilwoman Vargas, Councilwoman Jermaine,
Yes.
Councilman Donegan, Councilman Riley,
Yes.
Council Vice President Brady, Council President Paplaskas.
Yes. Okay, that takes care of the executive session portion of the meeting. Thank you, everyone. Moving back to where we were. We are under Council President Communications. Does that conclude executive communications from the? We are done with executive communications. Okay, moving on to executive communications. Just like to thank all of the city workers and the administration for all of the hard work yesterday during the tropical storm. I know I had a few calls. I know Council Vice President Brady had a few calls, and Public Works and Highway was on the spot with getting to the issues with the trees across the roads and getting them cleared. So thank you very much. On another note, we had a site visit with the planning department at the Cranston Print Works on Saturday. That went very well. To all those watching at home on YouTube and Zoom, stay tuned. There's going to be meetings in the fall regarding that project when it gets presented to us officially in that capacity. One other thing I just want to also make a note on is coming up at a future Public Works meeting, we're going to invite DEM to come in so we can hopefully have a discussion on Mechanic Park. There is an invasive plant species lotus in there that is really taking over the lake. So hopefully we can have a discussion with them and try to get some answers moving forward. That being said, that concludes Council President Communications. Moving on to Council Member Communications. Councilmember Donegan.
Thank you, Council President. So I had put this on the docket this evening for a dog park at the stadium complex. There's this, if you're on Midwood Ave, right by past the tennis courts, kind of right next to the batting cages, this enclosed area, there's some sort of outlet in the middle of it, but it's already closed off. I think or use it not as it's not big enough to really be a dog park, but they use the enclosed area for a place to bring their dogs, let them off the leash. And I'm just inquiring into the possibility of making it a more formal kind of space for people to bring dogs. I think really all it would require is maybe just some additional signage, perhaps some dog bags to put there. I'd be happy to buy them and do it myself. But really just signage, making sure that the trash there is going to be removed, on a weekly basis. It's more or less what I'm looking into.
Okay, thank you, Councilmember. To the administration or Parks and Rec. Do you have anything to add on the possibility of a dog park at Cranston Stadium? Councilmember Donegan, is that the triangle area kind of in the middle?
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay. Director Tassaglia, the floor is yours. Just got to push the button on there for the green light to come on.
Good evening. Yes, John, that's a great idea. That's an area that's really nothing else that could be done there. Maybe we can take a look at it and possibly see if they could even expand some of it to make it a little larger. But I'm more than welcome to go over there with you. We can survey facilities and see what we have. You're welcome.
Okay, Councilmember Donegan, do you have anything else? Thank you. Councilmember Ferry, the floor is yours.
Yes, I was hoping that we could have an explanation as to access to the Cranston West track. I got an inquiry from someone that has been walking on that track for 15 years. And they showed up to walk after they were on vacation and they could not get onto the track. And this woman was not very happy. And I would just like some verification as to what's going on with the track, why it's not accessible anymore, and why we're keeping people off it. Thank you.
I'll give you just an outline of what we're trying to do there. First and foremost, I believe it's probably the only turf field in the state that's unsecured. When that was put in, it was put in, as an interscholastic field to use for the youth of the city and with the options of renting it out to outside youth and adult groups. It's hard to protect an investment when you have everybody all over the field. And I can just run upon what I've witnessed there, bicycles on the field. During snowstorms, people shoveling with metal shovels to make a small area no bigger than this to kick a soccer ball around. Is that big of a deal? No, but the investment of that facility would be damaged. Teams going there, practicing, unannounced practices, they just show up. Some other high schools have been seen there. Not to mention the local trainers and people that will train either basketball, football, soccer, track, and they're getting paid for this, and I just don't know if that's what the facility is for. It was built for the high school and it was great for the people to walk there, and the walkers aren't the problem. They're not the problem at that track. So we're trying to devise a plan and a system where they can continue to enjoy what they like to do. So with that being said, I've touched base with Bobby Grasso with the police department, and we are looking into, once this field is secured, putting a fire system there for the walkers to continue to have access to the field. How that will be done, probably going to be done either out of my office with time registrations, where people would come in and have a card to enter. Now, that's not going to prevent them from letting 100 people in, but I don't think those people are there to do that. They're there to walk. They enjoy it, whether it before work, after work. I mean, we don't want them to lose that, but we still have to find a way to protect the investment. I don't know if there's any other questions that you would have, but that's where we're at with it. And once the fence is completed, which should be September 2nd or 3rd, I got an email today. Where come in, he has to put another plate or two on to devise the locking system and to see what's best fit for the facility and what we need it for.
You said yourself, it's not the walkers that are the problem.
Not at all.
So they need to have access to the track.
Correct.
And you're going to give them access to the track.
That's what we're working on it. Yep. It might not happen overnight. There could be a period of time where that gate is up, unlocked. And just the fact of the gate being up, an 8-foot gate being up around the facility will distract a lot of the groups that are coming there unauthorized.
And you would agree that an 80-year-old person doesn't have many options of a safe walking place, like a nice flat track. Mechanical Lake, the bike path, not really suitable for somebody.
I perfectly understand their gripes. I've been up there to get people off the field, been approached on why you're doing this, and I basically have explained the same thing I did to yourself.
So maybe some communication to us ahead of time would have been sufficient, so I could have answered her question.
Yeah, or you could have referred it to myself. I would have, just called the recreation.
She wanted to remain anonymous.
Okay.
Thank you very much for your explanation.
You're welcome.
Yeah, just to add to that, the Director Tasalia explained it quite well. But in summary, the purpose of it is securing $1 million plus investment. As the director said, he believes it to be the only turf field that is not protected. There has been incidences of football teams, and I believe it was LaSalle that took it upon themselves to practice. There's been reports that people with cleats are on that field. So he explained it well. It's to keep out the unauthorized people. And certainly this poor woman who couldn't get on the track could have gone after 3:30 in the afternoon. There's a big sign posted that was detailed. Director Tassaglia had the wording to that. So there was notice if she went to the track, and I believe she could have read it probably. But at the same time, if they're doing construction, we don't want to endanger the citizens, and they could be harmed during construction periods. Unfortunately, in order to secure the field, to protect the taxpayers' investment, we thought that was prudent not to have the people walk on the field during the construction period for their own safety. So we apologize during the temporary construction of approximately 2 weeks. As Director Tassaglia said, there will be, the intention right now is to have a secured field using a fob or a card system, allowing all Cranston residents access to it, not prohibiting anyone. And correct, it could be abused, but the likelihood will be tremendously reduced. And speaking of cameras, the intent is to have a camera looking down on that field for security purpose, hooked up to the police department for people that unauthorized use of that field, so they can address it before our investment is harmed. So for a couple of weeks, we do apologize for the construction, but we think it's probably for the good of the city going forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Director. Council Member Ferry, do you have any more questions? And I think you have one more agenda item on your communications.
I do. I would just like an explanation of what the policy is on Little League fields being locked up.
From my understanding, Councilman, that has been done previous to me. I can address that and look into it. I understand the need of the Little Leagues at night. They like to have a nice field ready for them when they play their games. With people using it during the day, some things aren't just baseball. Could be a lot of dogs go on there. We've seen bikes on there. We've seen ATVs on there. And just the vandalism possibility of them going onto a field and damaging it. But more than that, when a kid goes onto a field, why should he have to play on a field that's not set up, not lined up, not dragged? What we can do during Little League season, which ends usually mid-July, unless they're in All-Stars, maybe after that point, we could have the fields open. People have cut locks off the field also in the past, I've been told. But it's something that can be addressed as far as who is going to use it during that time and for what, like before 5:30. That's the big concern that we have.
The inquiry I got was from a parent whose child does not play Little League that tried to go to the field near Park View to play catch and ball with his son, and he couldn't get into the field. That was the inquiry. So I asked myself, we're going to lock people out of a public park just because they don't play Little League, they can't get into the field?
It's not
That
so
was my
much
question.
because they don't play Little League. It's the other people that don't take care of the property, and use that field for things that shouldn't be used for. That's where I think the locking comes in addition to the fact that, my crew's working on those fields in the morning. Are they going to go back there after hours to do it? I don't think that's the right way to go. But we can address it and see when we can open it. If you'd like, I would talk to that gentleman. If it's, I can give him some ideas and maybe we can work it out.
Thank you.
Just to follow up, Director Tassaglia, on that question. I know there are some fields in the city that aren't used, like the softball or baseball field at Cyvo Park. If there's a list of fields that aren't locked or not used, maybe we can generate that list somewhere. So that way we have options for people to use during baseball season that wouldn't be locked. Director?
Yes, just to add to that is the mayor's basic feeling, the administration's basic feeling is to allow as much use of those fields as possible, is not to lock anyone out. This issue came up thanks to actually Councilman Ferry for illuminating this. We haven't had a heck of a lot of discussion. I think it just came up over the past week. So we will try to consider every means to have the people enjoy the field on an unlocked basis. And Council President just had a good idea. So we'll try to come back with some is open, not locking these fields as an alternative, only out of necessity. Okay, so I just want to know I just want to convey to you the mayor's basic feeling is he'd like to have the fields open and to do everything he possibly can that's prudent. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Director. Councilmember Ferry, do you have any other questions or?
No, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Do you have something to add, Councilmember Renzulli?
Hi, thank you. So I just wanted to go back to the track for a second, because as a track coach at Cranston West and for CLCF, I'm probably there the most of anyone in this room. So I can tell you that there has been trash on that field, and I don't mean just a couple of water bottles. I mean to-go bags of food and slushies spilled all over. Dog waste, kids riding bikes, using electric cars on the turf, and the safety nets being pulled on and essentially, starting to be ruined for the lacrosse. So I think that it's definitely prudent to try and have some kind of security system as long as everyone eventually gets access. But that is a big investment that we need to secure. So I just want to say it is really happening. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Renzulli. I mean, when that field discussion came up, I remember we were all sitting around trying to figure out how are we going to secure, that $1 million investment. Councilmember Vargas?
Yes, thank you. So I was just curious, kind of to piggyback a little bit on the kind of even trash situation and things along those lines. How often does Public Works, or is it your department, to the director, through the chair to the director, is trash picked up at these fields? Do they all have trash cans, and how often are they picked up? And we may have 100 and people may still not, place trash where it belongs, but I was just curious.
Well, all the fields, I believe, have, the metal trash barrels there. They're on a regular schedule. They get picked up. Sometimes if they're driving by and they're not, if the garbage is not there, they won't get them. But that's a regular schedule they have to go by the parks. But garbage is one thing different than like dog waste on a field. That's a whole different, so I mean, yeah, they're on a regular schedule at all fields and parks.
Do you mind if I ask you what the regular schedule is?
I can get that for you. I don't have it right with me. Yeah, I
Okay.
can, I will get you that if you'd like.
Thank you. My
Yep.
other question, if you don't mind, while you're
Sure.
actually there, are there certain park hours, are the fields considered, if they fall under the Parks and Recs, are there actual hours where it's after dusk?
I believe it's after 9. There's I've seen signs at 9 o'clock curfew. I think
Okay.
There's been a few fields, and again, we can look into the signage at all these fields, maybe upgrade that.
If I think that might be great. And my only concern on this too is I recall that this very similar situation has come up a few times while I've been on the council. But there's also a lot of, on my end in Edgewood, a couple of people who reached out regarding, liquor bottles and things along those lines in the field. They don't really see it in the afternoon from what people are telling me, but they'll see it the next morning as their walkers.
Right.
So I'm wondering if we're able to, at least the administration, and kind of provide that information over to the police department, that the officer and B can also circle around the times that the park hours are also closed.
Like
just
a
to
regular
also avoid
schedule, they
people
go
from
by and
coming
check.
in the evening. Just a thought, right?
Yeah, that's when it's happening. I mean, when the signs say like at Carberry there's a sign 9 o'clock, the parking lot across the street, they're in there till all hours of the night. I mean, maybe enforcing something a little more severe if they're caught in the lot, because that's what they're doing in the lot. They're drinking their nips, they're doing other things in that parking lot.
Right.
And we're not there to go by and, during the day, I've tossed people out of there just sitting there doing the wrong thing.
Absolutely. So it's definitely enforcement. And to the camera's point, is sorry, this is kind of new that I'm hearing about the cameras. Is that something that eventually is not going to only be at West, but is this going to then be cameras?
Right,
throughout
right
different
now,
little
and I
vehicles and
failed to
around the
mention
city?
that when I was talking about the security of it. I mean, working with Bob Grasso that is involved with that. And there is going to be a camera tied into the police department. They're trying to figure out if they're going to get the feed from up top over the press box and maybe one on the ticket booth on the entrance on Metropolitan. But the discussion for that is to keep them aware of what's going on, on the field. And
All
in
the fields.
right now, that's the one we're talking about and we're
Okay.
addressed. We haven't had any discussions about security cameras on any other youth, athletic fields.
Thank you.
To that point, what we will do where there are security cameras, we will post that there are security cameras in use, so the public will be aware of that.
Thank you, Director. Any other questions or comments on the fields before we pivot off? There being none, Council Member Marino.
Thank you, Council President. For my agenda item for council member communications this evening, I had placed on the agenda citywide communications. And given the discussions tonight, I think it's more apparent than ever how important this topic is. And at its core, what I'm asking for and seeking is better communications from the administration to the council members so that we can all serve the residents of Cranston as best we can. Some of the topics this evening have touched upon that issue, whether it was the cameras, whether it's the parks, whether it was the vaccine rollout, the hurricane situation, the ATVs, et cetera. And again, I can't stress enough, this isn't about policies, whether cameras are right or wrong. That's not the issue in this subject right now. This is the issue of communication. When I was, first elected and was a council member elect, the Fung administration did a very good job of sending out emails on a frequent basis, at least weekly, sometimes more frequently than that. And I understand that they did that prior to that time as well, to keep council members informed so the city could function as a whole as it should. And I understand that this was a new administration. Mayor Hopkins had the privilege of serving as a council member prior to mayor and was the beneficiary of those communications as well. So I'm sure he understands the importance of them. We did have discussions prior to this evening with the administration as to this issue, and I remained hopeful that things would improve. And unfortunately, I haven't seen that improvement. For example, the cameras, we received an email from the communications director after the press conference even took place. We were receiving calls and inquiries prior to that time, and it would have been beneficial for us to at least, know that was coming so we could communicate that to others. In addition, this administration is more staffed than the prior administration. There are assistants serving there. There's a chief of staff, an assistant chief of staff, a communications director. So I'm just at a loss as to why we can't have better communications to us so that we can all serve the residents well. I think this is a real opportunity for improvement. It would have solved a lot of the inquiries that took place tonight. And I look forward to some improvements along these lines. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Marino. Director.
A couple of things. I'm not going to go into much detail. I think it was a cheap shot at the mayor and the administration. We've communicated. I question if this is a valid, if we're violating open meetings. It's just broadly stated citywide communications. I'm not sure if that was, I'm not prepared for this. I wish it was more specific. Then I could be in a much better position to articulate all the times that the mayor's office has communicated to the city council. They're copied on every press release. We do not have a policy of disclosing confidential police information. That's just a couple of things. I think this is rotten. I think it's a cheap political shot to say in this group. Everyone in this room knows that they could come into the administration, the mayor's office personally, and talk to that gentleman. And he's open-minded to every council person, every non-council, almost every citizen. This guy is the most open person, but you people constantly bash him. It's a two-way street, people. Where's your communication? How about those emails that you, pardon me, the Facebook posts that you have banging basically Chief Winquist in the police department that you people weren't informed? Why don't you call Colonel Winquist? Why don't you call the mayor? Why don't you call me if you're so concerned about it? Be genuine as opposed to just throwing political shots in this forum. I think that's rotten. The administration is not prepared for this. On the docket, it wasn't specified about hitting the mayor. And we're not prepared because I would have had asked our communications coordinator to have data to be able to present it to you. So I will ask the communications coordinator to help us out, to state the number of times in the issues. And I'm going to leave it at that. We're unprepared. I think it's a low blow. Everyone here is welcome. Everyone has my cell phone number. We welcome you to call. You all have the mayor's cell phone number. If you say, Mayor, can you help us out on this? We've had caucuses, not caucuses. We've asked the Democratic members of the council to come in, the Republican members of the council. Everybody knows they can come into the mayor's office. Please communicate. Please ask us if you're needing some more things. But no, we will not disclose a confidential police investigatory information.
All right, I'm gonna go one at a time. I'm gonna stay with Councilmember Marino because we're still in her communications, and then I see other hands up.
Thank you.
Councilmember Marino.
Thank you, Council President. I cannot stress enough that this is no type of a political shot. This has nothing to do with Chief Winquist. This has nothing to do with any political attack, and I take offense by that suggestion. The record is, the transcript is clear. My concern is that the prior administration communicated to us as council members as to issues that are of great importance throughout this city. We came to the administration, we asked for that. We gave you time. It's been 8 months, well-staffed, and we still don't get those communications. I stressed again, it's about Parks and Rec. It is not our burden as council members to come knock on, Mayor Hopkins' door every 2 days or every day to ask, hey, what's going on? That's not the way our modern city should operate, nor is it the way it operated in the past. This is nothing personal. This is about efficiency, and I'm seeking improvement. And I'm sad to hear that this is your response. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Marino. I'm just gonna go right down the line. All right, Councilmember Riley.
Thank you, Council President. This is a common topic that comes up. We just throw out the word communication. What communication? What do you want to know? Where's the line? Do we also discuss, what office supplies are in personnel? And I know it's a very ridiculous example, just to comment on how ridiculous this is. I've never once not had a phone call answered. I've never had the door locked on me. I do know some people in this room that are making these claims who don't answer their phone from the mayor's office, who don't come to meetings that the mayor has asked them to come to. So if we're going to start letting everything out, then things are going to come out. Communication is a two-way street. So whatever the theme of tonight was with the communication comments ending in this, it was good. The mayor's door has always been open to me. I've known about the fence around the track for weeks. I believe I've spoken to almost everyone in this room about it, including the people who said that they've never heard of it. And that wasn't the first time something like that has happened on the council floor. So it's just enough is enough. Let's do our roles as a legislative branch, executive branch, and judicial branch. They all have their own roles. Let's figure out what ours is and stick to that. The checks and balances, as we like to call it, are built in to the charter. It's not, we're not the check. The checks are built into the system. So work together. Mayor Hopkins is a nice person. I don't think anybody can say he's a bad guy. He is there, and it's not because it's new or anything like that. He is running a city. He's the executive. He's not our secretary. He is not, we're not above him and he answers to us. I mean, this is common civics. So let's stop trying to throw shots. Let's focus on what has to be done for the city. And that's it. If you have a question, pick up the phone and call. Don't sit there and wait for your phone to ring. That makes no sense. So this is just, this keeps happening in the same theme every meeting. Enough is enough. Unless there are concrete examples, just throwing out these terms with nothing to back it up, it's just, it's nonsense and it is political.
Thank you, council member. Councilmember Donegan.
Thank you, Council President. You know, Mayor Hopkins and I served together for a term, and we sat right next to each other. Well, at least while we were in person before the pandemic began. And I consider him a friend. I still do. We had, political differences, differing political philosophies and approaches, and that's okay. That's part of being in government. That's a good thing. And I had differences with the previous administration. When the pandemic began, I voted against the permanent extension of executive powers, but in the same breath, I also complimented how Mayor Fung was handling the situation. And a key component of that was the steady stream of information and communications that the city council was receiving, I think on the onset, on a daily basis. And then as maybe the summer came and as the administration moved towards its 11th hour, they became maybe every other day or once a week. My point being is that the prior administration went out of their way to ensure that we were getting all the pertinent information, at least relative to the public health crisis, the ongoing public health crisis. And I know that both publicly, members of the council have asked for more consistent communication, and I know that it's been requested in private. I've been privy to those meetings, both on a personal level and as members of the Democratic caucus, we've made that request. And they're genuine requests. And yes, I made a social media comment about the security cameras. I had no idea that was going on until the news stories. And I'm sorry, I don't think that's a good thing. It's not a shot at the mayor personally, or at you, Tony, or any member of the administration. It's just a bit of just constructive feedback that when I have constituents calling me saying, John, what's going on? I have no idea. And that's not a good thing. I don't want to be put in a position where I have to tell someone I don't know what's going on in the city that we represent. It's not good. And another example, and I'm not doing this to just take cheap shots, because I think most people here know that's not how I operate. Most people that I've served with know that's not how I operate. But another example, yesterday we had the storm, and thankfully it wasn't as bad as we all thought it was going to be. Yes, I know people in South County got hurt and some people are still without power, and I hope that it's restored. And I'm very appreciative of everything that the city did to ensure our safety and the cleanup crews. But as an example, trash pickup is delayed one day this week. How did I find out? How did everyone here find out? a Facebook post from the City of Cranston page. I mean, it's simple, like, yes, we found that out. I'm, you know, a millennial on Facebook, but what if I weren't? I mean, there are members of this that have served in the city council in the past. I don't know about the present, that aren't as savvy on social media. I mean, when something like that happens, hey, here's what's going on in the city, a communication from the mayor's office, that would be appreciated. That way we have that information. We're not asking for the world. We're just let the information be provided to us when it should be. We shouldn't be finding out from a press release that goes out about things going on in the city. You know, we're the city council, and I do think that we should be more informed in the future. And I hope that we can work on that together. Thank you.
Councilmember Frey?
Yes, I think it's unfortunate that what you heard and what I heard come from Councilwoman Marino were two totally different things. I heard someone pleading with the administration to communicate better so that the elected officials can do a better job and be more informed when somebody calls them up. That's what I heard. And she's asking the administration to do that. It's been 8 months. She wants it improved. She has the right to ask for that. I think I have the right to ask that same question. And instead, you heard it as a political shot? No, we're trying to do a better job at the thing we were elected to do. And when somebody calls me up, I want to be able to give them answers. That's all. That's what we're asking for. Bottom line, period. It's got nothing to do with taking a personal shot at Mayor Hopkins or Anthony Moretti. That's what you hear every time we ask you something. And stop thinking that way, because that's not what we're doing. We're trying to do a better job for the 17,000 people that voted for me, or the 19,000 people that voted for her. So I think you should apologize to her, and you should take the advice that she gave you and do a better job at helping us do our job
Point of
better.
order.
Thank you.
This is in violation of the Roberts rules.
I don't think asking for apology is a violation of Robert rules. Everybody has a right to say their piece here, but I would like it to stay civil. We got off the rails, administration, council, everybody stay civil. We're all here to fight and work for the residents of Cranston. I appreciate the passion, but civility is certainly, and decorum is much appreciated in chambers. Comments from council members? Councilmember Vargas?
Thank you. First and foremost, I am one that does, and I'm not speaking on behalf of any of my colleagues on here, but Mr. Tony, Anthony, right? God. I just turned 40. I'm kind of losing my memory already, right? Tony, you know I call you, I'll text you, I'll text the mayor. I'll email Paula, everyone in the office. I am one that really tries to sometimes figure out what's going on. I sometimes send messages to everyone. As a matter of fact, I believe I even sent you an email today after I sent one to Director Strom last night asking for the fiscal, for the fourth quarter transfer information that I was looking for. You know, I think that, let me just say, I know we're all, or you got a little, maybe emotionally got a little upset, but first and foremost, we shouldn't be saying you people. At the end of the day, we're all councils. I'm here to work with you. I think we're all here to work together for the city. I think if we just start communicating, we're going to drop the ball here and there sometimes. We're not all going to get along probably as far as politically. We're going to agree, disagree within our own party, within other parties. But not to be redundant, but but can we do a better job? Absolutely, right? The trash was definitely one of them. At least that's one that I can definitely relate to. I found that on the mayor's, Facebook. It was shared through the city Cranston Facebook, and I was able to share that out. And then I tweeted it early this morning before 8:30 a.m. So maybe we just all have to work together, right, on communicating a little bit better. I'd like to also know, if there was a trash day, I put it out there, and there was a few folks who ended up sending me a message saying, thank you, we appreciate it. We did not know that. before it gets out there, perhaps we can just send a quick email, or it was about a storm or Public Works. Public Works chair is right here. Maybe he would be, disseminated to the chairman. The chair can disseminate it to all of us. So kind of like what we do with the whole Public Works when there's a hurricane, a storm, we have someone designated that we all reach out to and let them know this is the person who's called us because their trash has, their street has not been plowed. So it's all about just all working together. But I don't think, I don't think I've ever yelled at you or yelled at the mayor, and so I did find that a little bit out of line going up and just saying you people. I have to be very, very frank about that. I think it's fair for any one of us to put something on the docket and respectfully discuss it. So do we all have to work on communicating? Yes, but I think maybe it's expected a little bit more coming maybe from the mayor's office, because we sometimes get calls or emails and we would like to provide a response in a timely fashion to our constituents. And sometimes I tell my constituents, I don't know the answer. I'm not sure. I'll reach out to the city. And that's when I reach out to Paul or Gina, whoever it was. And I would do the same thing with the previous administration when Mr. Perillo, who's here with us this evening, was also in his in your seat. So that's all I can say for now. And I wouldn't call it a political shot, but that's my own personal belief on that. Thank you.
Thank you, council member. Who had their hand up first? Council member Jermaine?
Thank you, Council President. What I want to say is, I think we are all here growing up person, and most of us as kids, and I don't think even basic Dr. Moire talk to his children that way. I don't. Even I'm so upset about my kids, but I don't want to convey to my kids this kind of disrespect. I feel like, first of all, Dr. Moire was very disrespectful to Council Marino. She asked a question, a legitimate question we've been asking. We all sent email to the administration privately. We asked, we don't have it. And the example, it's clear. So the way Mr. Moitis addressed us, particularly Councilwoman Marino, is very disrespectful. And I don't think we can tolerate that, because we all deserve disrespect here. We are elected officials. People of Queenstown elected us to do our job. And that's why we are here to do. We asked for 8 months now. It's been 8 months. We understand the first 2 months, there is transition. But as of now, the basic information we are asking, and we asking behind the curtain, is that nothing. I mean, coming here to talk this way to us, we are not kids. Even kids, we should not talk to our kids that way. And that's the first thing. Second thing I want to say is, all the council persons say, I don't know how the administration did it. Is some of you, because we are Democrat, we don't have the information, and you are Republican, you have the information. But the way I see our council really respond is like he has all the information. Good for you, I'm happy, but we don't, this, I didn't want to talk lately because we know it wasn't in the docket. I have a lot of constituency that call me about the camera surveillance. And then that's why I think when we could not address it because it wasn't a docketed matter. So I said, I am still looking at the charter. That's the response I gave because I didn't know. I said, I'm gonna look into the charter to see if the police department has the authority to take those decisions without the council input. So probably they have, I don't know, say I'm going into investigation to see if the council has to wait on that position, on that policy. That's my response. So I'm waiting, okay? So we have concrete examples. So we are a body. We are one city. There is no three city, a part of Democrat or a part of Republican here. At the end of the day, I think we all want one thing, the betterment of the resident of Princeton. And we need to do that with respect to each other. And I thought it very disrespectful to be treated that way. I wonder if she's a woman, he treated it that way, or what is the point? And if he's so cranky, so he has to get down, have some water, cool off, because we are getting in the fall right now. He has to cool off because this job we need to compromise. So with respect, civility, I can disagree with you. Yes, we must disagree, but with respect. And I feel it very, very unfortunate.
Thank you, Councilmember. Councilmember Renzulli.
Thank you. I just want to say, I think that good communication is kind of a subjective term. I've said it with my children, with my friends, my family, the kids I coach, people I work for, people I work with. What I think is good communication, they don't necessarily think is good communication, and vice versa. But I do think that Councilwoman Moreno came I try to assume positive intent, and I think that she just wanted better, communication, whatever that means to her. I think on the other side that Mayor Hopkins has excellent communication, maybe in different ways than the prior administration had. We do get a lot of information from Facebook. It's always there. It's very easy to share. I have received a lot of compliments on how easy it is to disseminate that type of information, which is different than coming from an email. I do know that Director Moretti, he always answers his phone, whether it's late at night, responds through text, same thing for the mayor or anyone else in the mayor's office. I don't think that that's specific to me because I have heard that across party lines. So I can see why the director would be perhaps take it personally, because I think he does go out of his way to respond to us more than he necessarily has to. And while I don't think it's okay for anyone to be yelling at anyone, I do know that there are other people in this room who have gotten very loud at council meetings and have yelled at the administration and other council members. And I like to, again, assume positive intent because we're all passionate about what we're talking about. And we all have the same goals, and that is to lead this city and help its residents. So maybe we just need to come together and be specific about what we're asking for, because if we continue to just ask for better communication without saying exactly what we're looking for, I think we will continue to be disappointed. So perhaps we need to send 2 items we specifically want to the council president, and he can work with the administration. I don't know exactly how we need to do it. And I don't think what just happened was okay, but I think we're not going to come out of this solving any problems if we just go around the room and say what our gripes are. So if we want better communication, I think we should just outline what it is. And I think, again, that we need to be respectful of each other, but realize that sometimes people are going above and beyond, and we need to take that into consideration as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Renzulli. The only person that hasn't spoken on this specific topic yet is Council Vice President Brady and I. So Council Vice President Brady, I'll give you the floor on this.
Thank you, Council President. I'll be brief. I appreciate the opportunity to speak and just listening to all my colleagues. I mean, I can just tell you from every business meeting that I have with my entire management team and my entire staff every single week, generally, this becomes a topic of communication becomes a topic. Generally, people in the same situation in these meetings that I have every week take it personally because one person believes they're communicating properly and the other person doesn't believe they're getting enough information, or, ultimately that's what, is the breakdown is in communication. So I think ultimately we have a lot of passionate people in this room who all care about the city of Cranston, including the mayor's office. I might happen to disagree with some of the assessments that were made, but if someone else feels that way, I think we should all collectively work together to communicate better to improve the city of Cranston. So it's my personal opinion on the matter. I look forward to communicating with you all in life the best that I possibly can and hope to move forward from this discussion.
Thank you, Council Vice President Brady. Since it's Councilmember Marino's topic, I'll allow one more time, but I'd refrain from going back around the room again. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Council President. I can't stress enough, and I understand sometimes people's emotions can get a hold of them. I understand that. However, I have never once treated anyone in this room with any disrespect. I have never once raised my voice to anyone in this room. And while I understand sometimes some things can be subjective, I tried very hard to make this very objective. There was a prior standard that was set of emails pertaining to important citywide communications that the prior administration would share with City Council. And all we're asking is for the same. And there isn't much ambiguity. If the administration can take the time to know that they want to schedule a press conference or issue a press release, then that clearly is something that is pertinent citywide that we as City Council should know in advance. I shouldn't stumble upon it in the news. I shouldn't have to search it on Facebook. Again, we have a communications director, and I guess I had false expectations or higher hopes than I should have with more staff in that administration, in that office, and someone in the role of communications, that the standard would improve and not go backwards. And again, I have addressed this, as my colleagues have, with the administration numerous times before, and I'm just looking for a solution to work better together. As we said tonight, a lot of the things we discussed tonight, had we known in advance, we wouldn't even discuss them this evening. So that's all that I'm hoping for. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Marino. Guess I'm the last person to speak on this. Certainly, passions ran high tonight, emotions ran high. I know we're all trying to work very hard for the city. And I know when you put your heart and soul into something, if you take something the wrong way, or emotions will run high. So I hope that from here on, we can bridge that gap in communication. The emails that we got from the prior administration were extremely helpful. There were 3 or 4 topics, items on them, things that were coming down the road. And I'll just anecdotally or leave you with this, because the cameras were a hot topic tonight. When I first heard about it, I had a constituent call me and ask me what it was, to go by to see if they were going to get a ticket, because it's near a speed sign that gives you your speed readout. I then did hear about it. I stopped in and did hear about the press conference the next day, but at that point, the press conference was going to happen. So I'll leave that at that. Communication is certainly key, and hopefully we all move forward together in the right direction as a council and an administration. Moving on to the next agenda item, council business matters carried over. We have an ordinance and amendment of chapter 8.36 of the Code of City of Cranston 2005 entitled Rodent Control Complaints. I believe this was continued from the last meeting due to some amendments that were going to be drafted or worked on. Does this need to go forward or be continued? Councilmember Donegan.
Thank you, Council President. Just due to circumstances, we weren't able to meet with the administration to no fault of anyone, just circumstances. I'm wondering if, because there is some work that needs to be done, if it should be referred over to the ordinance committee. I think it's on the city council docket because there were no committee meetings that month. Perhaps it should go to, I would make a motion to refer to the ordinance committee.
Okay, we have a motion to refer 6-21-01 back to the ordinance committee for review and possible amendments.
Second.
We have a second. Any discussion? There being none, clerk, please take the roll.
Councilwoman Marino,
Yes.
Councilman Ferry,
Yes.
Councilwoman Renzulli,
Yes.
Councilwoman Vargas.
Yes.
I'm sorry. Councilwoman Jermaine,
Yes.
Councilman Donegan, Councilman Riley, Council Vice President Brady, Council President Paplaskas.
Yes. Moving on to introduction of new matters before the council. The new matters listed here on the docket are being referred for public hearings to the appropriate subcommittees of the council. They are listed here for referral and informational purposes as well. I'll entertain a motion to send all of the new matters before the council to the proper committee.
So moved.
Do we have any discussion on that? There being none, clerk, please take the roll.
Councilwoman Marino,
Yes.
Councilman Ferry,
Yes.
Councilwoman Renzulli,
Yes.
Councilwoman Vargas.
Yes.
Councilwoman Jermaine,
Yes.
Councilman Donegan, Councilman Riley,
Yes.
Council Vice President Brady, Council President Paplaskas.
Yes. The Cranston City Council's next regular monthly meeting will be held on September 27th, 2021. That being said, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to
Second.
adjourn.
Okay, Madam Clerk, can you please take the roll to adjourn?
Councilwoman Marino,
Yes.
Councilman Ferry,
Yes.
Councilwoman Renzulli,
Yes.
Councilwoman Vargas.
Yes.
Councilwoman Jermaine, Councilman Donegan, Councilman Riley,
Yes.
Council Vice President Brady, Council President Paplaskas.
Yes. We are adjourned. Thank you, everyone. And thank you to everybody watching at home.